Ed's youngest brother. First, I want to thank everyone for coming to help us remember Ed. Sue asked me to tell a few stories about Edwin, and I just wanted to share with you some of the memories I have. Ed, as you know, lived a full and interesting life. Anyone who knew Ed, I'm sure, can tell stories. He never met a stranger. He liked to talk, joke around, and have fun. He was interested in people, and he liked to hear their stories. And Ed was always interested in a lot of different subjects, many subjects, and truly enjoyed learning how things worked and sharing what he knew with others. I always thought of Ed as he should have been the shop teacher, because he enjoys kids and he enjoys learning how things work and telling you how they work. Or if he was born in the old days, he would have been the town blacksmith. He enjoyed tinkering with old gas engines, cars, lawnmowers, tractors, go-karts, bicycles, motorcycles, guns. The list can go on and on. Growing up on the farm, as they mentioned, in the 50s and 60s, we always had machinery that needed fixing. And my dad always said, Ed can fix anything. He knew how to weld, which usually came in handy when things broke. I know our dad relied on Ed to help maintain the tractors and other farm equipment. Ed always enjoyed working on cars, and there was many a time when we would test drive some old car that was Ed's latest project around the section. And he would always invite me along. My concern was, would we make it back without the car breaking down? I wondered at times if Ed just brought me along just so he would have somebody to push. But he always managed to make it back home. It was never boring hanging around Ed. One notable project was an old garden tractor. Originally, to start this tractor, he had to spin the flywheel, and it could be really a challenge sometimes to get it started. I especially remember the time when I was riding along behind Ed as we were driving through the field. Ed and I was standing on the tow bar in the back, and Ed was driving, and then he would turn around holding onto the steering wheel without it being attached. And of course, being on the back, I could just jump off, and immediately after that, it made a hard right turn right into the fence line. But, you know, that kept life interesting. But as we mentioned, he was at technical school, and he liked learning things, so he was studying hydraulics. So, of course, that tractor morphed into an amazing machine, because he had to add a loader and you know, a front loader on it. And of course, that way we could clean out the barn easier. Of course, it would take a country mile to turn that thing around, so I'm not sure how efficient it was. But it needed hydraulics, so he added a hydraulic pump, electric starter, so it was a lot easier to start. Wheel weights, power steering, and it had 2 transmissions. Well, these transmissions multiplied, so he had like 9 gears going forward. And that thing was wickedly fast and unstable at top speed. But that's another story for another time. I spent many hours helping Ed, you know, playing grease monkey while he was working on his projects. I'd be holding up the transmission while he's bolting it in place, or just holding a light so he could see what he was working on. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about engines, transmissions, brakes, guns. You know, just hanging around Ed, there's nothing that he could talk about and he enjoyed telling me about. And I'm sure Nick, in the time he was growing up, maintaining his cars and snowmobiles, got that same benefit of Edwin's instruction. But as she mentioned during her homily, Dad got that mechanical skills to use. He started his own business, making little potentiometers or electrical components, where he would make a machine that would automatically solder the wires and insert it into a plastic molding. And then, of course, that morphed into he could sell the business. And later on, as she mentioned, when he was working at Tampotech, he created a machine that would automatically add Teflon to pistons for automobile air compressors. And I know Ed enjoyed traveling, and he got to go to Germany and China, Brazil, and Mexico. I think he realized how fortunate we are to be in the U.S., because I know he always liked being back home. But Sue said he never forgot, always remembered to bring souvenirs home for the granddaughters. So he's always thinking of others. He was a true handyman, you know, as they mentioned. He liked working around the house, remodeling, plumbing, and household electrical repairs. But he's never too busy to help someone else with their project. There's many times when I would call if I was working on something around the house and ask Ed if he had any suggestions on how I should proceed. In fact, this past summer, when we were, after one of our trips, he actually helped me install a screen door on my daughter Katie's house. Kate had a new dog and she wanted a door that so that the dog could go in and out more freely. And Edwin was more than willing to, to help me do that. I think he was happiest when he had a tool in his hand. And he was even happier if he explained to you how to use the tool. So that you could be doing work. He's sitting there supervising. Ed was great with kids, as I mentioned. He was always patient. He helped out with the children's corner at the church, teaching kids how to make birdhouses and crosses. And I know he helped Nick when he made his Pinewood Derby card. And with his laugh, his snow white beard, and his belly, he was a natural to play Santa Claus at Christmas time. And he liked to help, doing whatever he can, especially at the church. And he liked being around animals. One of Ed's jobs growing up was milking our cow. The barn cats usually sat around and got an occasional squirt of milk. Ed and I actually raised German Shepherd puppies for a while, and later I know he raised Norwegian Elkhound puppies with Sue and Robbie and Nick. He also raised Persian cats. Often when you're talking on the phone with Ed, you would hear a cat in the background telling him it's time for a snack. Quit talking on the phone. Sue that said Ed's cat, Pumpkin, is still looking for Ed to come home. And of course, Robbie, as she was growing up, had horses, so he got to help out with that as well. And then, of course, enjoyed nature. He would put feed out for the squirrels, deer, birds. A pair of sandhill cranes would show up at their backyard every year. And of course, having fruit trees in the backyard meant that they had deer. They would often show up as well. And of course, as mentioned, Ed enjoys being outdoors. He likes riding his bike, hunting, fishing, snowmobiling. He liked to talk about his experience when he rode in the RAGBRAI, I think it was 1980. And he continued to have it. He liked to ride his bike around the neighborhood. And he even invented, I think you'll see on some of these pictures, he invented a set of rollers so he could put his bike on there and continue riding even in the wintertime. And I'm not sure how he ever did it. He had to be able to balance, because if you ever stopped pedaling, you would fall over. I know he enjoyed his trips snowmobiling up in Upper Michigan. He went with Robbie and Mark and Nick. So it would always be handy to come along, because if something broke down, he could fix it. The last couple of years, he was actually able to go with my son Stephen and I to go fishing. So we enjoyed that. And I know he also liked to go pheasant and duck hunting with his friends. I think Keith and Kevin both were here. Not sure if they had got any pheasants or ducks, but I did shoot a coyote that happened to pick the wrong time to come out of the grass. And Ed and I, you know, when we were younger, and I was younger and my dad was around, we used to go up to Canada and Leech Lake fishing with my dad. And there always seemed to be something that would happen on the trip that would make it extra memorable. And then, like I mentioned, he went with Steve and I up to Canada the last couple of years. And Steve got to hear the same stories that I told him, validating some of the more unbelievable ones that you had to be there to really believe it. I know Ed enjoyed fishing with Steve and getting to know him better. They both enjoy being outdoors and realize that the experience of hanging with your friends is probably more important than catching fish. Ed enjoyed spending time with Susan, Alexis, Alyssa, going on trips to the Wisconsin Dells, Cedar Point on Lake Erie, or driving around the backyard in a golf cart. One of Sue and Ed's favorite occasions was visiting Yellowstone National Park and going water rafting. Ed and Sue are a huge Chicago Bear fans. You probably noticed the blankets up here. And we go to the games whenever they had the opportunity. These are just a few of the stories about Ed, and I hope they jog your memories about Ed. Ed will be missed by all who knew him. He cared about others and was always willing to listen, lend a hand, or give advice. Sue said that when he was in hospice, Ed would often get agitated and wanted to get up because he had some project he was supposed to do or someone to help. But even after the nurses got him all settled back down in bed again and said, "No, Ed, you don't have a project," he would just give him a big smile. Whenever I called Ed and asked him how it was going, he would always say, "It's another beautiful day." Even if it was raining outside, Ed would say the same thing and then laugh. He was a great brother and a friend, and he was a man of faith. I am sure he is with Jesus, laughing, telling stories, and enjoying another beautiful day in paradise. May he rest in peace.